is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AIM Impact on Your Health, heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AIM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, as a matter of fact, because of all that calling in and joining in from you, we kept hearing the same thing over and over again after our first visit from our guest today. His name is Dr. Roland Thomas, and he brought to us an idea I think really needs to be given some additional time. We're going to be talking about the algae, bioengineered algae. I believe there's enough salient facts here to bring to the forefront. A picture is emerging of an ideal way to supplement, I think. And I think that it just deserves some more time to allow you to inspect it, decide whether or not it could be something that you could utilize in your own supplementation procedures in your own families, plus because of the disease connection that's already been established between taking these kinds of algae and reversing some pretty serious diseases. Well, you get the formulation for what has been entitled The Awakening of the Genius Within. And so we're going to be with Dr. Roland Thomas today after our first break, talking about Dr. Kyriak, the originator of these algae preparations, and trying to get some insight as to the entire use of algae to really not require the use of any additional supplementation, I think is the message that comes across. So, in our course and discussion with Dr. Thomas today, if you want to call in and ask a question or to make a comment, that number, of course, as always, will be 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. And I will give that number additionally throughout the hour. Now, I don't know how you're handling today. I guess I'm doing okay. I did not like the Super Bowl yesterday. What was that? What was that? I just gotta drop it. You have to drop it. We got to get over it. It's over with. And look forward to maybe next year. And I'm still so stung by the entire issue that I can't seem to control my own emotions here. Better I just drop it. And maybe you better do the same. Up and coming calendar events here as it works out in the month of February goes something like this. On Wednesday, you're going to enjoy being with Dr. Susan Smith-Jones. She's going to be talking about natural remedies for boosting libido. I've been waiting to see how she handles that topic. We'll look forward to it. Then on Friday, Jerry Singleton's going to be here. Now, Jerry was in my office last Thursday. We did 13 patients with this new device that we're bringing to Pittsburgh. We're going to be spearheading this project. It's only going to be a short matter of time before you find the device in a lot of doctors' offices. The fact that the insurance world has picked up on this, is fully supporting it. It is a device that has its own code. To understand how difficult that is to get and see that this company has attained it. Well, let's go about in our conversation with Jerry on Friday when we describe how you can get the information as if you had a cardiac catheterization without ever having a cardiac catheterization. And I think that's pretty accurate, and I think with the results that I was able to see from the 13 patients we did on Thursday, the correlation was highly significant. And we'll let it go at that for a while. That's on the 11th. Next week, on the 16th, Doug Inglesby returns. He and his family are very much and have been very much involved in the supplement industry, really being the one of the few companies that have ever put together high-potency vitamins as they were described back then. Anyway, Doug's going to be with us on the 16th talking about what he calls the flavor makers. The very next Friday, from the 11th, is the 18th, and we have Jerry Singleton coming to us back-to-back to get you ready to be participants, if you should choose so, in our launch of the program. We're opening it to the public. Those of you out there who are listening to me and you think you'd like to have a study done, by the way, insurance covered, a study done which would be able to provide you with such information without ever having to have the risks versus benefit that goes along with having such a study like a cardiac cath. Who would ever want one? Anyway, there, on the 24th, we are accepting phone calls from anyone out there in the listening audience that wants to come on in. You need to pick a 15 to 20 minute segment of time out in the course of the day, and we'll schedule you on in here to have this study done. It takes 7 minutes to do it, and you're none the worse for the wear. You are fully clothed, except for the need to have your shoes and socks off, but that's it. Okay, so a lot of stuff going on in my office, at least in the month of February, around this new device. You know, Obama said the Sputnik moment was hopefully what was in store for we Americans. Well, there's a Sputnik moment occurring here in the office and occurring in medicine in the entire western Pennsylvania area. I believe this device is our Sputnik moment. In the third week of February, Dr. Alan Ridgway is going to be with us. Now, he's the diabetes guy to the extent that he has all sorts of interesting devices, orthopedic shoes. He's been a gentleman who takes the foot molds of those people who want to get orthopedically designed shoes. They're quite expensive, but insurances do cover one pair per year. And we have a lot of our patients that take him up on his offer. Other devices that just have crept up and are new entrants into the field of diabetes. If you are a diabetic, you'll want to pay attention to the show on the 21st with Alan. On the 23rd, in a similar fashion, a gentleman by the name of Kurt Domkowski is going to be here talking about dressings, RTD dressings, which are used especially now in the diabetic community because of their predisposition to developing pretty serious and oftentimes very tragic infections in the distal extremities because of poor circulation to the distal extremities in the diabetic. One small wound, which would be nothing at all to anybody else, could turn into a major infectious gangrenous situation that could lead to amputation. And so the use of RTD dressings, which has been described to me as sort of like a sponge that soaks up the bacterial contamination and just brings it right into the dressing itself, where it can be discarded, will be described by Kurt on the 23rd. And that's about how the month shapes up. Still, I know I brought it to you. I won't have time to elaborate on it, except to say once again, be on the lookout out there. The vitamin C alert has been lit. I've lit it. I've brought it to your attention. The FDA has shut down for the number one supplier of intravenous vitamin C from a company called McGuff. I do not know, and nor do I think they even have a clue as to whether or not they're going to be back online and when that will be. In the meantime, I'll keep you apprised of what's going on out there. You just keep an eye out for bogus vitamin C it being administered potentially intravenously. I believe you know and should know how to protect yourself in that situation. All right, let's do this. Take a short break. And we're heading up Canada way, up near Toronto. We were last with Roland about a month ago, but his name keeps coming up and keeps coming up. You keep bringing it up because you're interested enough in it, more intrigued about it, and you're just requiring more information. We went and got him. We're bringing him back. We'll be back in a moment with him. See you then.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural, whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with all the life and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here in KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today on this post-Super Bowl version. Okay, I'm calm now. I'm going to resume my composure and bring to you a pretty important topic. At least on the surface it felt to me to be that way, but you just below the surface have been really dabbling in this. Many phone calls came from you concerning this topic, and it was just apparent to me that we needed to get back into it. We needed to learn more about it. The story is a fascinating one. It begins with a pretty influential and brilliant scientist, Dr. Michael Kiriak, his work, his accomplishments, and his matriculation to a new country, and now the availability of his work in a form that you can take. Well, all this, when you put it all together, is just fodder, and very good fodder for the intellectual in us all, as well as the desire to improve our health. To help us in this regard, the gentleman who, has worked very closely with Dr. Michael Kiriak, his name is Dr. Roland Thomas. Let's say good morning and welcome him back. Good morning, Dr. Thomas. Thanks for coming aboard once again.
Good morning, Dr. Courtney. Good to be here.
Nice to have you here, Doctor, and I do have the benefit this time in that you were nice enough to send me some advanced materials allowing me to study a little bit to maybe make my conversation with you a little clearer and allowing us to focus in where I never think we got last time, and that is how can the listener today utilize what was learned through all this to help their own health situations? Wouldn't you say that should be our bottom line before we sign on out of here?
I agree. Eventually, that's where I like to lead people to understand once they understand the story, is how to use it for themselves and benefit.
We do have to talk about evidently a brilliant scientist, now personal friend of yours, and renowned around the world for his accomplishments in algae. His name is Dr. Michael Kiriak, and Dr. Kiriak, hailing from, I think it was Moldova in the Soviet Union. Am I right about this? And I think the first point that just has to hit everybody in the gut, literally, is the terrible family situation he had with respect to pancreatic cancer. I just have never come across in medicine a family so overwrought with this disease. And it really was the rudimentary beginnings of what provoked Dr. Kiriak to move to try to help out in this regard. Could you take a little bit of time and explain about that?
Correct. He is or was from Moldova, which was, at the time of his birth and of his work, a satellite state of the then communist Soviet Union. In his part of the world, there was lots of cases of pancreatic cancer. We don't know why to this day, and it's still a fact, and it may have been genetically from the diet, etc. But particularly his family, by the time he was 12 years old, he had lost his grandfather, some uncles, but also his own father, and this was one of his personal drama. He was, this is back in the 60s or so when, if we recall, we had been able to transplant a heart. I think it was the Jarvis heart. And he was amazed by science, the advancements of science. But when nothing could be done for his father and for other members of his family that he was noticing, he was, of course, saddened. But it turns out, and at 12-year-old, you don't really know what motivates you, but that was one of his motivation to eventually study cellular nutrition and biology and so forth.
That was going to be his avenue of trying to come up with an answer as to, if he couldn't help anybody in his family, to at least help others because of the conundrum that he found. And I mean, people were dropping like flies, brothers and sisters, and just a terrible. I didn't realize that was such a disease that was so insidious to the area, and the incidence of disease so high. Pancreatic cancer that high in that area of the country, huh?
Well, we don't have numbers, Dennis, but you know, when it's your own grandfather, your father, and by the way, not till recently, he was also a brother who tended to overeat and drink a little too much and never listened to his younger brother and never took the advice and died of pancreatic cancer about 5 or 6 years ago.
Even up till now. Till now. Okay, so that's the initiation of this gentleman's inquisitiveness about how to intervene in health. He takes a different tack. He gets involved in the 1970s with his work. And he begins to discover that there are algae out there, and out of the thousands and thousands of them that are out there, he decides that there are 4 of them that are unique enough that when he brings them together, that they should be able to do the job that either one or numbers of them alone could not do. How does he come up with these 4 out of the thousands and thousands that there were?
That's a great observation, a great question. At university, he had come across Japanese research on chlorella, which dated back to the 50s, and there was a lot of scientific paper available, and to this day, we know that the Japanese did a lot of research particularly with chlorella, because it is so abundant in that part of the world. But already in the 70s, there was some available information about spirulina, blue-green algae, and there was already some facility on Hawaii growing those human consumable algae. And that was obviously the place to start with those that were already known and available. But when you say he selected 4 among thousands, that didn't take a month, or it wasn't just an idea formulated in his brain. There was about 8 years of extensive trials and errors of bringing in from the world, importing from different sources, from Australia, even from California, or even the blue-green algae from Oregon, to Russia to test the values of those algae. And initially, they were working with single algae, one at a time, just to find the best one. And the discovery was that most algae, particularly those that are known, the chlorella and spirulina and blue-green algae, they're called green algae because they're predominantly, in terms of their pigments, rich in chlorophyll. That's why they're green at the pigment level, but also rich in protein and minerals and all that good stuff, and vitamins. But at that time, the science had already discovered that it was the antioxidant side of nutrition that was very important in prevention of cancer, for example. Already in the 70s and the 80s, we knew that vitamin C played a role. We knew that beta-carotene played a role. And soon after that, in the 80s, we discovered that things like selenium, alpha-lipoic acid, and many other carotenoids like lutein and lycopene, of which we talk about 20, 30 years later. Of course, science is always ahead of what is popular. So hence, they began to investigate other algae that are rich in antioxidants. They're called popularly the red algae, and one of which is quite known today, called Dunaliella. I'll keep it simple. Dunaliella, and it mostly comes from Australia, and it's very high in what is called quinine mixed carotenoids, mixed antioxidants. Proportionally to that algae, to that food, it yields about 17% value of mixed different carotenoids. And so they began to incorporate this one with the green algae to get not just nutrition, but also to get protection or antioxidants. So that's how they eventually, after about 8, 9, 10 years, came up with the final mix, which is a mix of 2 green algae and 2 red algae.
Now, talking about Dr. Kiriak, he wasn't working behind the scenes, sort of the back of his house. The Soviet government felt his work was so intriguing and so potentially beneficial. They put the full force of the government behind it. They gave him a big, huge staff. They gave him a large budget. They gave him a lot of personnel. They really did support this gentleman to the extent that it enabled him to find out as much as could be found out on this subject because of their financial support. Is that a fair statement?
It is, except it's not that upfront. It started humbly with very small budgets after university because he had shown some results in his proposal to do research with algae. And but over the years of showing results with test groups of animals, with rabbits or mouse or rats or local sheep and small projects, 100 animals, etc., etc. But gaining results, eventually gain more and more budget. And just to be real clear, it took about 8 years to go to the first trial. And the trial in this case was to work with a live farm which was affected by cancers. So these were reasonable budgets. We're talking here millions of dollars potentially, and this was the ruble. When they came to the larger project of 54,000 pigs or 15,000 dairy cow farm And the largest project, which became the center of the research, was a poultry farm with 1 million animals at the time that they got on board. This was in 1983 or so, 82. And that's when the budget became significant. And what we mean by a lot of people helping, just on that one farm, there was 900 people available, but mostly they were farm workers, about 800 of them, assisting with these million chickens, which were housed in multiple housings of 100,000 animals. That requires a lot of staff.
Oh, yeah, it was quite large, and the largesse of it is what made his work even more appreciated, because if I understood correctly what I read and heard, there were problems with the cancers in that animal population, and did I hear this right? He really resolved all, not using the word all because I heard the word all used. He resolved all the cancer issues in that animal population at about this time. Is that correct?
I'm going to clarify so that it all makes sense. When you said earlier, back on the people assisting, Dr. Kiriak had gained the right to coordinate the research project with other universities, with other research centers. At the time, the Soviet Union was quite a organized country, particularly for research, and a cooperation amongst units was imposed. As Dr. Kiriak shared with me, it was fantastic to do research in Russia. Because of this, if he got the license to do a project, then he would get cooperation across the country. So that also brought in assistance, if you wish. And regarding the all, we have to be careful or moderate into what this means. This statement in the book is about the fact that in 20 animal species formerly tested in clinical or in small groups. Now here we're talking 20 animals against 20 or 100 against 100 tests. 100 if you wish with taking the supplement and 100 not, and proving in these small groups that the test group would not develop the cancer as the group not taking the bioalgae would, or in already engaged small early advanced cancers, they were able to see shrinking of tumors, etc. So they proved undeniably that when the bioalgae was consumed by those 20 species, that there was prevention of cancer. And they also showed much remission or stabilization and remission. And that's what it all comes in. And subsequently in the large trials, these were very specific species: cows, mink, poultry, and the pig. Those 4 large trials, they were all subject to epidemics, seasonal epidemics of various species-specific cancers, as in leukemia with dairy cow, shown in the milk, the somatic cell count, as in Marek cancer with the chicken. And so these were stopped in these 4 large trials.
Now,
in the first year being present, applying the new nutrition,
uh-huh.
those cancers were stopped, and subsequently they wouldn't come back. This is what the all means.
Well, there is, I had read no other place in my readings over time where something as emphatic as what you just described could occur in any experiments, even though they were occurring with animals at the time. These are fascinating results. These are unbelievable results, and one would only say then, okay, what is the potential to help human beings if this kind of help can be obtained with the animal population? And then, lo and behold, Chernobyl hits in 1986, and I guess that's the next chapter in this saga, because human beings suffering from radiation exposure, having all sorts of physical issues developing from it, deaths occurring from it, gave Dr. Kiriak an opportunity to take his to take the algae on the road, so to speak, didn't it?
Good point, and I always like to clarify that the book is fairly clear, but it takes several reading, or it's the kind of questions we're asking to understand what happened, why, and how we have to be smart about not jumping to conclusion that because 20 species of animal we saw prevention and we saw stopping of the epidemic in those large trials. I'm starting with that, and then I'll link to how it was used with humans and where it's at potentially today. What is my interpretation of the value for one or the other? What happened right after the explosion is basically it was confusion. It was a massive, if you wish, drama and an issue for the whole of the Soviet Union, particularly politically. And much of what happened was there was an attempt to hide it, of course, early on. And even when it was happening, everything was reduced to, the numbers were reduced because many more people died. And they had to evacuate a city of 500,000 people when they figured out within months after the explosion that this radioactivity was still leaking, and even to this day that city, that huge area is evacuated for forever, probably, certainly for 100 years is the outlook. But the point is that there was panic and people were dying or scheduled to die. Nothing could be done, so they didn't know what to do with many other than sending them away to other local or regional hospital or schools or wherever they could. So Dr. Kiriak, make a long story short, was able to work with patients that had been sent away to his region in local school and dorms. And we're not talking 1,000, and it was not a official test. By the way, it was do it because you've shown results with your animal research. And formerly, the Soviet Union would not allow products used for animals to immediately be used for humans. But this was a case where they were going to die anyway. So he was able to apply the algae to hundreds of people within the year following the explosion. And many of the people showed regeneration as opposed to dying, as well as some are alive today. And he is in contact with some that have remained alive because of that opportunity. Nothing, I just want to make clear it was not a absolutely formal test with preparation, documentation, you know what I mean. It was not a pharmaceutical grade. Yes, it was. Let's try and save some people.
And that he did. And that he did he not?
Correct. And I'm saying that because a lot of companies have claimed to assist people of Chernobyl after the disaster with products. And this was shown in the Western world, and claims were made and so forth, and it was quite a popular thing to do for a while, particularly with algae as well. But what Dr. Kiriak did was completely behind the curtain. It was not like something that was on the news, or certainly not in the Western news. And his entire research was quite humble and hadn't moved to human use, had not moved yet to being rolled out in the country. They were completing the large trial. They were going to roll out the application of these algae to other farms in Ukraine, which was the equivalent of our northwest United States, Oregon, for example, the granola state. There were local farms who were ready to accept the transformation of using these algae, which was not a small affair. You had to set up a local bioreactor and change the feeding method was quite an engaging affair.
Well, by the time Chernobyl gave him the opportunity to see how his work could be expressed in humans, and he did get responses. There was no doubt about it from what I could read. As the 90s move on and come onto the scene, he literally leaves the scene. He moves to Canada. I guess that's where you and he finally hook up, because you are a Canadian, and his work takes place in Canada. Why does he move to Canada? What is it about Canada that was so alluring that took the entire, that he felt that this was, which is where he could take the next step, which has been taken now with respect to supplementation?
Yeah. The Soviet Union shut down the country. Moldova became an independent state. Dr. Kiriak's home, and the project fell, the budget fell apart because, as we recall, when after Reagan and Gorbachev decided to break down the Berlin Wall, Soviet Union became fairly broken politically, and the economy, and mafia took over, if we can use that expression. It was not a pretty scene for many, many years. And those other states that had been abandoned had to survive on their own, and Moldova became immediately the poorest state country in that part of the world, and remains one of the poorest states in Europe. And Dr. Kiriak was left to his own affair, and he remained attached to that poultry farm, which was in that country. And he remained the director there, and it became a commercial farm, and they sold to countries and other, they sold the results, the egg products, and the eggs and egg powder, etc. But it was not a very pleasant affair for him as a scientist. He left with that kind of business, if you wish. He tried to begin his own enterprise there for human use and even for animal use. He actually created a business, but in a symposium in Belgium, he met a Canadian diplomat who proposed to him to come to Canada, and Dr. Kiriak had this vision of America, the great, in Canada, the great, large, pure country where one could become a business person, entrepreneur. And so that was the allure, and he came to Canada, not realizing that he didn't even speak French nor English. Of course, he realized it, but he signed up for a language program, he and his wife and his children. He had two daughters, still has two lovely daughters. And it took a couple of years to even earn some money. Back in '96, I met him in late '98, and even his French was quite rudimentary, if you wish. And so he began, I met him in a context of introducing him to an investor to help them start the animal supplementation in Canada. And it didn't work out. It turned out investors wanted to take a little bit too much of the benefit. And he realized that to launch for animal was more difficult than to launch for humans. In the U.S. and Canada, to start selling a dietary supplement is quite easy. It's quite open and permitted. While in the livestock industry, every species, you have to have a certain level of research demonstrating that, and I mean a level of research that you're looking at millions of dollars.
Oh, really? That seems to be in stark contrast with one another. In humans, you're allowed to supplement and sell supplements pretty much in any way or fashion you'd like, but if you're trying to do it to livestock and for livestock, that's a whole other matter. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That's absolutely true, yeah. You have to have it approved for mice, for rats, for rabbits, for dogs, even by size, and they're like basically two categories. You're either going for feed, or supplement to the feed, or for a medical form. And so you have to either go through FDA regulation with the pharmaceutical grade or go in the feed, and the feed is very close in Canada as well, in the U.S. I'm not going to bore you with the regulation. Anyhow, he began as a dietary supplement in Canada, and I was in the United States at the time, and he had asked me to help him promote it in the U.S., and I set up the company and set up the imports and all of those things. And it's 10 years that I've been promoting and educating about this product in the United States. And the product has become Health Canada certified, fairly extensive process of verification of the content as per statements of the purity, the source, and each lot, it's not just the odd one. Each lot is verified before encapsulation, and you get a lot number, and it's somewhat coming near the pharmaceutical grade, and it's a very expensive process, and it's putting a lot of business out of business in that industry in Canada. It's more rigid in Canada now. It's becoming more rigid. You can't just start selling your own hair, overnight, call it a dietary supplement. There's more smart applied to that because there's too many, in reality there's way too many loose liberties in that industry.
Now, I think we've come to the point where your own background and expertise really lends to this issue because you're a naturopath by training, correct?
Correct.
And so, in naturopathy, trying to look for ways to supplement and help the human body is pretty much what you studied, and always using a natural product as opposed to a pharmaceutical anything is the impetus by which the naturopathic profession presents itself and carries on a pretty high line of integrity. Now, I noticed with great interest where it came, and you looked at your own supplementation for your own self. And I think you were up somewhere near 30 daily supplements or something near it.
23.
Was it 23? Okay. 23. And so I actually see that kind of patient all the time in my office because I call them the shopping baggers. They walk in here with a shopping bag full of stuff, and they think, what's the next one I have to add to this? Talk to us about that type of intellect. I believe they're out there. You've come across them. You helped create them, I think. And then to take a look at the use of the algae in a way to maybe not take any at all and move to a much more wholesome form of supplementation, I think is the real niche for this algae component with respect to supplementation today.
Very good point. I came out of the granola era when we introduced soybeans and eating naturally back after my short bout as a hippie. And though I studied formal science and biology and endocrinology as part of one of my early bachelor's degrees, so I was not obviously amazed by modern science and medicine and what we can do and could do. And my dissatisfaction with modern medicine was when it comes to internal medicine, where we tend to treat, we wait for acute symptoms and then we treat, as in diabetes. And I've always been a proponent of prevention and eating well and treating those before they become acute. So I'm not anti-modern medicine at all. I just want to partner and then both the natural side and what we call the alternative should have a very scientific approach. Not because it's called alternative or natural that they should start having no rules. Anyhow, I myself started based on fantastic articles about vitamin C and vitamin E and selenium and alpha-lipoic acid and beta-carotene, all individually, scientifically somewhat proven in articles anyway. I began to adopt those as I became in my 40s in wanting to prevent disease in my own health, wanting to prevent prostate cancer with sulfonyl, for example, or taking antioxidants so as to not have a cold or to not have cancer. So I fell for that strategy of taking a supplement in the prevention of every ailment, which is very allopathic, with palliative, with specific. And it's not very holistic. Holistic would be, let's try and prevent the root cause of disease, which is most of the time eating too much, and then followed by maybe not eating the right food. But eating too much is one of the biggest culprits. Anyhow, when I met Dr. Kiriak, and he shared with me his research, and I tried this bioalgae, it was amazing what I felt, because it's tangible, the effects are tangible. But also what I learned from him was that, Roland, you're very smart, but look at you. You're now taking selenium, which, in nature is very important. But when you take it as a supplement, you're taking risk. And what are you mixing it with? With alpha-lipoic acid. That's another fairly toxic affair. And then you're mixing in this and that. That's kind of playing a little bit with things that we don't know, really. That's somewhat the supplement industry is today somebody can be taking 50. I do have clients that come to me with 50, and they're taking them every day. So it was an opportunity for me to not only understand a simplification of supplementation, returning to food as a fundamental support of energy and health, and stopping the abuse, one of the best medicines. And introducing this algae for me was great because it's actually a food. So it sat well with my desire to be a naturopath, the path of nature, which is food as medicine and food as fuel. And it's of such efficiency, so small. It's just an addition to your diet. It's a complement. I call it a complement to your diet. And it's so supportive. And there's enough proof in my book, by the way, but that I made the jump from understanding that if it can help 20 species of animals, most of them were mammals, as we are, that it can possibly help humans, even though we don't have American level of trial and pharmaceutical level proof. We are not claiming it as a medicine, but for me it was common sense, and I am personally deriving benefits for 10 years now, and I will never stop taking this product. That's how convinced, that's how tangibly I feel it in my life. But my affair is nothing compared to the hundreds of clients, and it's certainly the thousands, but the clinics that we work with that are deriving benefits with their clients, benefits sometimes that are astounding, and I'm not talking about a miracle pill, because I don't believe in that approach either. There's always a need for moderation in your diet and exercising and drinking water and all those good things alongside the use of this bioalgae.
Now, this bioalgae comes it is sold in 3 different forms, as I'm looking at this literature. And you call them superfoods F1, F2, and F3. Could you speak a little bit about the differences between the 3 of them, and how it would be that one would or should select one over the other?
Yes, they're, let's call them grades, and they are certified by Health Canada as being 3 different formulas. And that was one of the requirements. You had to demonstrate why this one is called 1, this one 2, this one 3, and that the 2 has more antioxidants, if we can use that simple description, power than 1, and 3 has more protection than 2, just using antioxidants, for example. Health Canada has allowed Dr. Killian to write in his literature that it is a product rich in an antioxidant known to be for the good maintenance of health. And that he proved enough that there was such a body of antioxidants in his formula that he gained that right. So Formula One is a lower, the base, and it's a gentler formula in that most children or infants, very healthy teens, do not need a big gun, if you will. We're not in trouble at that age. So it's a prevention, it's more into the prevention area. The Formula 2 is the middle. We call it the core formula, and that is good for prevention with adults, with aged adults or young, and even when there are already engaged deficiency in terms of energy or nutritional deficiency in your brain, for example. We all begin to lack the capacity to assimilate properly our nutrients from our food, and we have already some imbalance, hormonal imbalance by the time we're 30 years old in America because of our way of life, our stress, and our diet. The Formula 2 is already going to increase your energy because it's good brain food. If we were talking about the bioalgae has the deficiency of reaching the brain more than normal food. That was the whole discovery. The combination of the four algae, the way they are grown, has an ability in such a small amount to reach the brain. When you can increase brain health, then you have body health. I say if you increase brain health, the rest of the body is a no-brainer. I use that expression. But it's a fact. When we feed the hypothalamus, which is the supercomputer that regulates our homeostasis, that regulates every single moment of our day, our pH level or blood sugar level or vitamin D hormone synthesized at the kidney, for example. Our energy, our digestive enzymes, our decision taken by the brain. Just like a dog drools at the sight of food, it's not the mouth that starts drooling, it's the brain that sends the message. It's the same thing with we humans, and so Formula 2 is good for supporting the brain and increasing health. And the Formula 3 is just more of that because it has many more antioxidants, carotenoids, which are safe. They're occurring as a real food. They occur as families, a multitude of them, not just one. That's the error with supplementation. People will take a large dose of vitamin C or beta-carotene, and they take only one. There are 600 known in nature. We need to have a diversity of these phytonutrients that our brain is starving of. So the Formula 3 is more efficient in terms of more advanced fatigue or energy demand, or if you live a very stressed life, or if you have advanced degenerative conditions. It will be very supportive in terms of that. You'll increase brain health and you'll have more chance of having less of stabilizing your condition, and it even supporting more regeneration power. And that's what we see, of course, in our results. People with chronic fatigue feeling better, people with diabetes needing less medication, people with cholesterol finding that the levels are stabilizing, people with osteoporosis seeing the decrease in the loss of bone density, the stabilization of bone density in older adults. Talking here about people that are 70 years old, for example. So this talks to the phenomena that it's not about force. Health is not about brute force. It's about the power that we have at our cellular level, but that when our brain is sluggish, fatigued, and sleepy, then it doesn't happen as well as when we were 12 years old or 17 years old. So increasing brain health is critical as we age in protecting our brain from toxicity, and nourishing our brain is very, very smart approach to health.
We have literally a minute or two left, and I think we're really just now moving into the discussion that has to take place in order to allow us to come to where you are and looking at how one should really supplement. You were a guy who were taking 23 supplements himself. You say you counsel people, they're taking 40 and up. And then you made a case for how, literally, Dr. Kariak said, you know, Roland, you're a smart guy, but you're like playing roulette here because you can't be taking a selenium with a this or a D3 with that because the interplay between all these could be explosive, if you know what I mean. Fair enough?
Yes, I think explosive is scary, but, you know, we just don't know. And it is a fact that many of these supplements on the market, even beta-carotene, and there's a lot of study out there that show that these things taken in large amounts daily, after a while, are toxic and lead to cancer or lead to cardiovascular problems. Even vitamin E, in taking in large amounts, especially the non-natural vitamin E. There's a very extensive studies that I have come across, and I follow those files very closely, by the way. That's one of my specialties. I debunk the supplements, and I'm the guy who's on the natural side. And I don't mean to do it meanly, but I just try to bring common sense to people that are taking, they have a spreadsheet of supplements to buy, and they go every weekend at the store, and they buy these, they have to decide which company to buy from, you know, going through that whole mental process. Then they come home and they have to label their bottle. I've got to take 6 gel of supplemental daily.
Yeah, this is, you are now describing, I know, I've got those very same people. I would like to say that we got another conversation coming up, Doc. I'm hoping that within a week I want you to just hold off air and bring you back and take a look at the food to take over the supplements. A food might very well be the best supplement. Do you agree?
Absolutely agree.
All right. So we got bongos in the background, says it's our time out of here. I think the Dr. Kariak, we thank him so much for bringing us to the point where we can have that next discussion. We're going to bring you back, okay, Dr. Roland?
Very well, Dan.
Okay. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We're at the bongo moment now. Want you to enjoy the rest of the day. We'll be with you on Wednesday. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney saying so long for AM Impact on your health.